Week 7, almost halfway through the season this year. It's flying by. We have some very good matchups this week. Teams are going to start kind of jostling for position in the standings. It's right now seems like I'm on top, Steve's on bottom, and everybody in the middle just fighting to make the playoffs. So we'll start off with the easiest matchup to predict this week. This one will not be a good game. Myself, Bend the Knee versus OJ's Revenge. By the end of the week, I'm going to be 7-0. You guys know what the drill is at this point. Even 21 points out of Ryan Suckup isn't going to save you this week, Mancusi. How are you still starting Amari Cooper? I mean, don't you need a prove-it game at some point? There's better options in free agency. Amari Cooper is an absolute turd. He looks just done. Devontae Freeman could have a big day at New England. I suspect he's going to catch a lot of passes, and he'll probably be the focal point of the offense against New England. Probably going to be a big game. However, the killer bees are going to get you. Breeze, Bell, Baldwin, and Brandon. So my bold prediction for this matchup is that Doug Baldwin dominates the Giants to the tune of 100 yards and a score. He's going to have a big week in a matchup where you wouldn't really necessarily expect him to have a big week. And the reason why is actually because the Giants have gotten better on their pass rush the last couple weeks, which means Doug Baldwin, who's the slot receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, is going to get a lot of work in that slot on those short, quick passes, and he's going to do a lot of work after the catch. So I suspect Doug Baldwin dominates the Giants. Leonard Fournette is fine. Even if he wasn't fine, Chris Ivory sucks. Chris Ivory was the guy there last year. How did that work out? So Chris Ivory, not rosterable, even if Fournette was out for the year, which, by the way, he's not, and he's going to play this week. And he will also crush the Colts. Bottom line here, you have no chance. You're going to have to bend the knee just like everybody else. Winner, bend the knee. Cheesehead versus Pocahontas. So Reese is sticking with Pocahontas despite losing to a kicker last week on Monday night, which is interesting because it seems like that name almost might be a Native American curse of some sorts. Some pretty bad luck there. I don't know. Going to be a bounce back week for Delanie Walker. I believe the Titans get the Browns this week, so should be a solid game for Delanie Walker after a downer last week. Bold prediction for Reese, though, Alvin Kamara will be the highest scoring running back for Reese. He's going to outscore Doug Martin. He's going to outscore Christian McCaffrey, and I'll get to that later on. Dak and Wentz will be the focal point of this game, though. Both should have good games. I'm forecasting both of them to get at least 18 fantasy points. Jordy Nelson's going to be fine this week against New Orleans. He'll be fine. He's still going to be Jordy Nelson. He's not going to put up the video game numbers that he does with Aaron Rodgers, but he is still going to be a very solid fantasy wideout, if not top 10 fantasy wideout for the rest of the way. If you could find a way, Tony, to flip Shady McCoy for multiple starting running backs, that would be the way to go. Because I don't know that Shady McCoy is still a startable running back. But yeah, I mean, your running back situation is dreadful. Mike Gillislee is absolutely not playable. You need to find somebody else to play. Jimmy Graham is going to shred the Giants. Him and Doug Baldwin both going to have big games with nobody else on the offense for the Seahawks doing anything at all. So loved the John Brown pickup. My bold prediction for you, Tony, is that he's going to be the highest scoring wideout in this matchup. Between either team. I think John Brown has a big game. Winner is going to be, I'm going to call Cheesehead in this one. I'm going to call Tony for the win, but this is going to be a good matchup, and it really could go either way. But since I always predict the winner, Cheesehead's going to win. Pack Attack versus RB's Rush the Ball. So we got Tony Sr. versus Jared in what should be another good game. You guys know the drill with Jared. If Brady and Gronk score less than 50, Jared has no chance. They should come close to that this week, however. Adams and Montgomery both have their value hurt a lot more than Jordy, in my opinion, with the loss of Aaron Rodgers. The Miami D play. Jared, it seems like you look for any excuse you can to get the Miami players into your lineup. How many times do you have to get burned by the Dolphins before you learn? My bold prediction, they score less than 6 points, as they only scored 5 the last time they played the Jets. They're not a viable fantasy play. They're not. They're just not. It's stupid. So on to Tony Sr. Derek Carr on Thursday night. You got to find a better option. Short week against a tough defense. Don't like it at all. Safarian Jenkins is legit. Austin Safarian Jenkins is a very playable fantasy tight end. T.Y. Hilton, however, is not playable versus the Jags and Jalen Ramsey. My bold prediction is he goes for less than 6 points. Jalen Ramsey's a wet blanket. He just covers and smothers whoever he's up against. You don't want any part of that. Mark Ingram, however, he's real. Enjoy the ride, man. Ingram and Kamara are both going to have fantasy value the rest of the way. Tough matchup for A.J. Green, as he historically does not fare well against the Steelers. Speaking of bad defensive plays, the Ravens will not stop Jerick McKinnon and the Vikings. They will not do it. They have one of the worst run Ds in football, and they're going to get shredded. So do not like the Ravens D, especially when if they can't stop the run, then the Vikings aren't going to be forced to throw it all. And the Ravens don't score a lot, for one thing. So this game is just leading to the whole game script is going to be the Vikings running the ball down the Ravens' throat. So the Vikings aren't going to have to pass, and they're probably not going to very much. The winner of this one, however, is going to be Jared, I think. But again, it could be – this one's a really tough one to call. Could bounce either way, and the week isn't over yet. There could still be some moves made. So I'm predicting Brady and Gronk just absolutely go bananas again, and Jared gets the W. But, like I said, could be wrong. Big Brown and It Hurts versus Gurley's Gone Wild in a battle of the number 2 versus the number 3 teams. Crucial kind of mid-season battle here. Matt Ryan, thank God he has been awful because John has a powerhouse team, except for the fact that he's getting very poor quarterback play week in and week out. If it wasn't for that, John would be darn near unbeatable, much like my squad is. So thankfully, Matt Ryan, biggest, weakest link on your team, and it's time to stop putting so much faith in him. He is not good. Your scumbag Ezekiel Elliott got his temporary restraining order, so you'll have him for the next 2 weeks at least. The bad news is that now he might be suspended for the fantasy playoffs, which I would be so happy about. But he's definitely going to miss our week 14 matchup heading into the playoffs. So you better hope you don't need to win that one to get in. So my bold prediction for your team is that Adrian Peterson goes for less than 7 points. Yes, even against the softest run defense in football, which is the Los Angeles Rams. I think AP was a mirage last week, and I don't think he's going to do anything. It doesn't, you'll get the slack picked up by Antonio Brown, Kareem Hunt, and Zeke. They should all have big efforts. With I'm predicting Kareem Hunt gets back into the end zone for the first time in 3 weeks. He's going to have a good game. Go Chiefs. Have a good one. On to Joe's team. Julio Jones will outscore Matt Ryan this week. My bold prediction, though, because that's not bold enough because Matt Ryan sucks, Julio Jones will be the highest scoring wideout in fantasy this week. I do not think that the New England Patriots will be able to cover him. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is it possible that he's going to outscore Matt Ryan? Well, I think that Matt Ryan is going to throw a few interceptions in this game. Julio Jones, however, will lose no fumbles, and I'm predicting roughly 180 receiving yards from Julio Jones, and I'm going to say he splashes the end zone twice. So absolutely huge effort from Julio Jones this week. Your other wide receiver, though, I absolutely hate. DT88 against the Chargers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Emmanuel Sanders is out. Yeah, that's true, and DT88 is probably going to get a ton of targets. But he's also drawing Jason Verrett, who is a shutdown corner, and with no Emmanuel Sanders on the other side, you know what that means? That means DT88 is not only going to be facing Jason Verrett, but he's likely to be double teams too. So if you give Verrett help over the top, I don't see him getting open. I just don't see Demaryius Thomas getting open. I would consider Pierre Garçon against the Cowboys in a game that they should have to be throwing a ton in, with CJ Beathard now in at quarterback should give him a little bit of a boost. I think Pierre Garçon has over 100 yards this week. I do not think Demaryius Thomas goes over 50 yards. Todd Gurley will have a big game also and finally get back into the end zone again after 2 weeks off. 3 weeks if you include just rushing touchdowns. But Todd Gurley, good game. Love the Saints D versus the Packers play, but unfortunately the winner's going to be John. John has just a juggernaut team. He did a tremendous job drafting. You got to give the guys credit. Really hasn't had to make any moves, and he's still got just a stacked up team. So the winner, Big Brown, and it hurts. Final matchup, man, it almost pains me to do these anymore with Steve's team, but follow the Buzzards versus Cash Me Outside. Change your team name. Try something different, Steve. Just do something. You must have got – the only thing I can think of is that you got some bad advice from Colin Kaepernick. You're not supposed to kneel after the anthem's done playing. You're only supposed to kneel for the anthem. You're not supposed to kneel for the entire season. It's time to get off your knees, Steve. Love the wideouts this week. Michael Thomas, Dez Bryant, both should do very well. Running back, however, is a different story. C.J. Anderson, Alex Collins, horrendously bad fantasy running backs. I do have a question about how it is you seem to have such a hard time finding a quarterback. It's only a 10-team league. Every week you roll out a QB that I wouldn't start in a 16-team league. Jared Goff, not a playable fantasy option at quarterback this week. Just not. I don't know why it's so hard for you to find a quarterback, but my bold prediction, though, so Jordan Reed, not only is he injury prone, but now he's also one of the worst players in football, period, regardless of position. Terrible football player. Can't block, can't stay on the field. He's dropping passes. He's just garbage. My bold prediction is he scores 4 or less once again. And that may not be that bold, but it is what it is. Joe Mixon, Jason, is a turd, and you're letting your fanhood of him hurt you. Melvin Gordon, however, will have his way with Denver in the passing game. I think he's going to receive for 50-plus yards. Here's the problem, though, for your team this week. Cam Newton is facing the mighty Bears, and I'm telling you, the Bears are tougher than you think. My bold prediction for you is that Cam Newton scores less than 10 points. Less than 10 against the mighty Bears, and the Bears will upset the Panthers this week. You heard it here first. Get a better flex. Start Terrell Pryor. I know it's crazy to suggest, but if he can't do it against the Eagles, he just can't do it. Trust him one more time. Start him this week. Winner, I mean, how could you pick anybody that's Steve's playing against? I mean, there's no way for you to pick Steve. There's just no way. So I'm going to take Jason. Follow the Buzzards, takes it down. Not because he has a great team, but because he's playing a horrendously bad team. So there you go, guys. Best of luck to everybody this week. And I will see you on Tuesday with the recap once I'm 7-0. See ya.